Right, hello everyone. Hi. Thank you for coming to our speech today. I won't individually thank you all, but I have done for those people who've come in. So today we're going to be talking about Project 19, the women's vertical world record, and are the women's record still needed? So I'm Elise Sharp, and this is
Hannah Parker.
And we are Sirius, not Sirius, Freestyle. So they actually called us Freefall on the page. So an outline, what we're going to be talking about today, a bit of background on us, a discussion on what is Free Fly Big Way, an overview of what was Project 19, a background to the women's suffrage movement, a discussion on women's experiences in skydiving, the Project 19 record event itself, the UK women's head down record, and then finally a bit of Q&A at the end.
So first up, we've got a couple of questions for things for you to think about. So first one, feel free to put your hands up. Do you think that women's events and records are needed? Whoa, yeah, so we do, generally. Yeah. Awesome. Secondly, do you believe we have removed all sexism at the drop zone? No. No. Good start. So just a little introduction about us. Do you know who we think we are? So yeah, my name is Hannah. I have around 8,000 jumps, 100 hours in the tunnel roughly. I'm AFF tandem rated, free fly tracking coach, and I've been part of 2 world records in 2016 and 2022. I was also a participant in the recent 200 ways, and I've competed in free fly A and freestyle A with Elise, and also done VFS in the tunnel. I worked as a professional skydiver for 6 years. 3 of those years at Skydive Dubai, working as a TI and videographer. And then the last 3 years, I've been traveling, load organizing around the world, and I'm also part of the all-female team, the Joyriders. And Elise?
I'm Elise Sharp. A few less jumps than Hannah, so I've got 2,700 jumps, over 100 hours tunnel. AFF instructor, FS free fly and TR coach. Been part of the Women's Vertical World Records 2016, 2017 and 2022. Was also a participant in the 200-way Vertical World Record in 2022. I've also competed in FS AAA, Free Fly A, Freestyle A and VFS. I also have a love of tunnels, so I have won 2-way dynamic gold in 2023 and 2022 and 4-way dynamic gold as well. I do a bit of load organising, but not as much as Hannah.
So that's the good stuff, but there's been bad things too, of course. So one of the things that we want to get across here is like the idea of learning to fail. So both of us at some point have quit our head down journey, specifically in Big Way. We went to the US on a big sort of 4-month road trip where we were part of the training for the women's head down record, then the world record in 2016. Both of us joined a camp after about 3 jumps, cried, left, quit, said not for us. And then it was only because of an email from Amy Chemelecki organising it saying, please, like, we need you. We turned back up to the thing thinking, it's all right, we'll give it a go. It'd be a great experience on the bench. And we both walked away with a world record. So part of it is the ability, like, it's not always going to be easy, right? You will get knocked down, you'll get binned off jumps. And then as personal sort of mistakes I've made, I've broken my ankle twice. I've landed with broken lines. I've definitely made my own mistakes as well. So part of the journey is about, learning to fail as well.
So a couple of key points of my skydiving career, learning to fail. So I actually crashed into the side of a swoop pond when I was learning to swoop and had multiple injuries. So I would just say from that, make decisions early. And then the other one, landing out, one of the ones, was actually, we didn't spot where we were, brand new drop zone, and it was actually, the drop zone was miles away when we got out, and I tried to make it back, and I actually had to land kind of in a housing estate, and the only reason I would say I'm still here today is because I got wrapped around a tree. So that's why I always say to people, if in doubt, always land out. But these are kind of learnings that we want to share with you so you don't kind of make the same mistakes as us in your skydiving career. So what is free fly skydiving? So a bit of an overview of what free fly skydiving is. So you've got your A license, you've completed your AFF course, or you've completed kind of your RAPs. You then primarily go on to work on your FS skills, so your formation skydiving skills. And then I would say kind of your free fly 1 and your free fly 2, so your head up and your head down skydiving careers go in parallel with kind of your tracking stickers as well. So we are kind of, in the British skydiving world, always kind of chasing those stickers. So belly tracking, your kind of your TR1, so that's kind of your belly to earth tracking. Your TR2 is kind of your back tracking, and your TR3 is kind of going through that vertical from belly to back into kind of that head down, which is why I say it's always they kind of go hand in hand from your kind of free fly 2 to your TR3. So what does this actually mean? So competitions. Competitions are a great way to kind of hone your skills in skydiving. So the British Skydiving UK Nationals, you kind of have two disciplines, I would say, in kind of the free fly world. So you've got your artistic, which is kind of your free fly or freestyle B. So that's usually three people, so 2 performers and 1 camera. And then you've kind of got your freestyle as well, which is 1 performer and 1 camera. You can also get involved in vertical formation skydiving, so VFS. So there's either two-way, which is a team of 3, so 2 people and a camera, or a team of 4, so 4 people and a camera.
And then obviously other things you can do, skills camps. UK, a lot of them will have requirements on your stickers, but when we go abroad, it's not usually the same. So this is definitely something you've got to regulate yourself based on what you think you can do, but they're a great way of honing your skills, having fun. Boogies as well, that's something you can often get carried away with, but it's still sort of your responsibility to jump within your ability. Then if you're interested in big way essentially it's just a 1-point skydive, right? So but there's a lot of people. You obviously have the pre-requirements of being able to fly head down, but you generally build up to this to get bigger and bigger formations. And we would say TR3 is almost essential, because being able to break off from a formation, you need to be able to track confidently, steeply. And the sort of step up from that, again, would be sequentials. So this is multiple points, head up, head down, like possibly on the same jump as well. It's sort of a step up again from that. And then so free fly big way itself, the sort of smaller formation at the top, that's actually Elise and I on a 1-plane shot, we call it, which is generally how we train for big way. Usually just has a small base and then stingers and pods on the outside. And then from there, once you've nailed that, you move on to sort of a bigger formation. This is actually the UK head up record current. Just a note, Elise is the only female on it. And then... And then a step up again is, this is the Project 19 80-way world record then. And you can sort of see how they expand, right? From the core in the middle, maybe the base gets bigger, and then the pods go outside. And then finally, the big schematic here was actually of the 200-way attempts of the mixed record. And you can just see how it sort of branches out from there. So that's the sort of general progression of free flight big way. I think now we've got a view, which I think is my view of a floater, so like approaching formation from one of the back planes, about what it looks like. And this was the 80-way world record. Oh.
Make sure to follow Hannah Nicole Parker. This is her Instagram video.
Lovely, may I add. Oh, again? No.
So what was Project 19? So Project 19 kind of had 2 aims, I would say. So it was a world record skydive in celebration of the 100th year of the passing of the 19th Amendment in the USA. So celebrating the women getting the right to vote. Need a beer?
His mouth's a bit dry, sorry.
So it was originally planned for 2020, but because of COVID, it was actually delayed by a couple of years, so it was actually 102 years. And then secondly, we wanted to break the women's world record as well, which was currently a 65-way, which was achieved in 2016 at Skydive, Arizona. The overall mission was to encourage women worldwide to dream big and live a brave life. And the two ladies here, Amy Chimalecki and Sarah Curtis, were basically kind of the ideas behind Project 19, and they did a really great job. And what it was actually kind of a sponsored record, so we received kind of a lot of funding, which helped women kind of really progress their head-down journey, enabling them to get on this record.
So a little bit of background then on the women's suffrage movement. So the first convention regarding women's rights in the USA was actually in 1848, and this was mostly just to provide more opportunities for employment and education. And then the Women's Suffrage Amendment was first introduced in 1878. This time there was a number of hunger strikes, obstructing traffic, lots of chaos ensued. And the state-by-state vote passing of the actual 19th Amendment, granting the women the right to vote, relied on 75% of the states approving this. And it was very much all into one vote. And the story here is a man representing Tennessee, Harry Byrne. He was initially wearing the red rose as in opposition of the vote. And his mother wrote him a letter, left it in his pocket of his jacket, which just said, "I know you'll do the right thing." And then on that day, he changed to the yellow, and it was all in the one vote. And because of that, on August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment was put to law, granting the women the right to vote.
So a little closer to home then, so what actually happened in the UK? So initial movements started in 1866. A number of women gathered some signatures and effectively said to Parliament, you know, we want the right to vote. That was just basically thrown out. So what happened, Emily Pankhurst and her daughters founded the Women's Social and Political Union in 1903. And what they saw in the US, you know, lots of demonstrations, lots of hunger strikes, they took that back over to the UK and effectively just started protesting a lot. Not much happened until kind of World War I. So World War I, everyone's efforts obviously went to the war. A lot of the kind of able-bodied men who were working in the factories and actually, you know, part of the workforce were forced to go to the front line. So what actually happened in the UK then is we didn't have kind of any labour or people to work in those kind of positions. So the women basically started working in the factory. And this was kind of pivotal. So effectively what happened was it was kind of a societal shift in thinking that maybe women, oh, you know, they are useful, we can use them, they can, you know, effectively work in these factories. So in February 1918, the Representation of the People Act gave some women the right to vote. However, it was very limited. You had to be a property owner at the age of 30. You had to be wives of householders or graduates from British universities. So it still was very limited, and it took another 10 years for women to get kind of equal, granted the vote on equal terms as men when the Representation of the People's Act was passed. So a few more recent changes then, you know, we got the right to vote, but actually, you know, there was still a lot of things that needed to change. So it wasn't until 1970 when the Equal Pay Act was passed. 1978, we're finally allowed to open a bank account in our own name. And 1990 is the first time we actually got taxed separately from our husbands.
And changes are great, don't get me wrong, but we still have a continuous fight around the world for more changes. Some more stats for you. According to WHO, 1 in 3 women around the world still experience violence. Around 650 million across the globe were married before the age of 18. In 2018, the global gender pay gap was still 22%, with women earning around 78% of what men are paid. It said that women spend at least twice as much time as men on domestic work. Maybe some of you won't be surprised by that. And then there's a great Instagram page called @PregnantThenScrewed, which talks a lot about how women still face discrimination in the workplace after having children, up to 50%. And very recently, and this was actually happening at the time of Project 19, was the Roe versus Wade movement in the US, where now most abortions are actually banned in 14 states across the US. So as you can see, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Okay, can you read it? Sex and learning. Okay, so this was in the BPA's instructor's manual, so I'll read it out. Sex and learning. In addition to the obvious physical differences between men and women, for which many of us are grateful, there are other differences. Men usually test much higher on mechanical aptitude, but no one knows positively how much of this is due to early experiences with mechanical things. Little girls are not usually encouraged to play with mechanical toys, but rather with dolls, and males are encouraged to make their own decisions, while females' decisions, by tradition, are usually made by her parents, escorts, or husbands.
Probably most differences in the averages between men and women exist. Oh,
It's quite small. Yeah.
it's hard to read. Exist in physical strength and related characteristics, or are due to training and environment. Although females generally show less aptitude for parachuting than males, I'm just going to leave that one there. We have seen that many women perform well in the sport when they are given instruction designed to overcome problems, just as you would design your instruction to overcome problems you had with a male. So our question is to you, guesses here, what year did this actually get removed from the BPA instructor's manual? Does anyone know? Guesses? 2012, 2018? It was 2014. Yeah, so to put that in perspective, I started skydiving in 2012, I think you were 2011.
2011, yeah.
So this was still in the manual when we were learning to jump. And I'm very happy it's removed, as I'm sure we all are, but just to put it in perspective that although it's great it's removed, that, you know, whoever wrote that might still be here, if you are, not sure, you know? And another one then on physical size and strength. Well, I won't read it out because it's really small and difficult, but I will just highlight, it does talk about females specifically, but also short people. You're also not allowed to do tandems, apparently. The shortest tandem instructors are in the 5'6" range, and these instructors are limited to jumping with students of similar size. I'm 5'4". I've got like 1,600 tandems, so I know that's not true. But this is actually, I think, the tandem examiner manual from 2005. But again, it's not that long ago, right? So it's amazing that it's not there anymore. Like, props to that. But at the same time, it wasn't that long ago, and like when we were learning, this still very much did feel like a lot of the attitudes.
So I went out, I asked a number of kind of active skydivers their experiences kind of that they have had at the DZ. So I'm just going to let you read this and just kind of take it in that this, you know, happened in the last 2-3 years probably. And here are kind of comments. Some of those are mine, some of those are Hannah's. So the one that is mine, I was quite a young skydiver at the time. Went to a new drop zone, I think had about 100 jumps. Landed out, CI came and picked me up, said, "I can't believe you landed out. Typical woman, not being able to navigate a new drop zone. I shouldn't have let you jump here." And he kept repeating over and over again, "You're a young woman, you shouldn't be skydiving, what do you think you're doing?" Needless to say, I never went back to that drop zone ever again.
Mine on here was, "You land your canopy quite well for a girl." The "for a girl," completely unnecessary. And another one that I wouldn't say I love, but it makes me laugh, I guess. "How are they going to do the dishes when they're all upside down?" That was actually a comment from on Metro. After the UK head down record, someone commented that, and yeah, like again, we'll give you just a minute just to read through some of these, but yeah, these are personally things that have been said to us, and also I'm sure some of you have probably your own experiences too. So yeah.
So Laura Bates, she founded the Everyday Sexism Project. And what that is kind of a website where women can share their experiences online. And she effectively says, as women, we're taught to suppress, accept, and absorb and carry these kind of comments around us. And she basically says, it takes time to remember these events. I didn't remember kind of what happened to me until other women started sharing their stories. And Laura basically says, the reason why women don't tell or experience or talk about these is because it's so normalized. It's normalized in everyday society that these comments happen, and actually, people aren't asked. We're not specifically asked, our experiences, so therefore, we don't really share them. So when is a joke no longer a joke? Joe Lanning? No, I'm joking. So, first of all, inappropriate physical contact in any way would cause immediate dismissal and consequences in any other industry. So I don't really understand why this happens in the skydiving world today. So I've got background in kind of psychology. I'm really interested in this area. So actually what happens to you when you receive a sexist comment? So what actually happens is kind of your cognitive consequences akin to when receiving criticism. So you kind of go into kind of fight or flight mode. What that happens, it brings up emotions of kind of upset, anger, and weakness, overall reducing our confidence. I'm going to talk a bit about social identity theory as well. Okay, social identity theory basically says that you're kind of part of an in-group, but you're also part of an out-group. When we're on the drop zone, we're part of our in-group. This is our community. We're tribal beings. We want to be part of that community as it's important and it's part kind of your sense of self. If you call a woman or any individual out kind of in a sexist way, what you are doing is kind of rejecting them from that in-group. And you're rejecting their kind of self-worth, and they probably don't feel welcome on this drop zone. Dr. Russ Harris already says there's kind of a confidence gap already, and this is kind of a societal issue, not necessarily just, not necessarily just a skydiving issue. So from a young age, we are gender stereotyped. So boys and girls are brought up kind of very differently. Boys, to a greater extent, are taught to be, taught to make more risks, fight more, have a tougher attitude, whereas girls are taught, be a bit quiet, be caring, and be gentle. And even if you go into a supermarket today, what you see for kind of young boys, like clothing and t-shirt, it says hero, soldier, warrior. Whereas for little girls, it says, pretty little thing, be kind and caring. Men are taught to kind of chase careers, chase their goals, and, they have the opportunity, or they, feel as though they can go and do everything. Whereas women, we're kind of taught our value is associated with what kind of men think of us. We're taught to kind of chase the men rather than our own goals. And I'm not saying, men don't doubt themselves, but this has just been found that women tend to be kind of less confident, more careful, less risk-seeking, and less confident of their abilities. So again, it doesn't mean that men aren't doubting themselves, but they just don't let those doubts hinder them in kind of achieving their goals and what they want to do in society. Examples of this, okay, so if you see a job description, men will apply for the job. Is that? Men will apply for the job if they have 60% of the criteria on that job description. Women typically don't apply for that job unless they've got 100% of the skills listed on that job description. And this is also seen in the skydiving world as well. So to you.
Yeah, as experienced load organising, I've definitely noticed the difference between asking someone, so can you fly head down? A little bit of a male-female sort of stereotype there, that females always be, no, I'm not very good. And the guy will be like, yeah, I can nail it. And realistically, I generally plus 10% on what the women say, and minus a little bit for the guys, because it's definitely a stereotype, but it's that inbuilt confidence. And I feel like, especially in a load organising scenario, women are far more likely to sort of undersell themselves.
Yeah, so let's put this all together then. So by doing this, you're suggesting that a woman isn't part kind of our skydiving community by basically calling her out kind of in this sexist language. So this causes kind of issues with identity, it causes issues with confidence, and what you're doing is possibly saying to that woman, you don't belong at this drop zone, and it's very, you know, sometimes that woman will just say, well, I'm kind of done then, I'm not going to carry on with skydiving. A couple of these pictures here, so one obviously kind of from Facebook, happens all the time, you know, what does it say? I fat female skydivers, great. Invisible Women, if you haven't read that book, very interesting, basically says, you know, there's a lot of kind of technology in society that isn't fit for women, or research that hasn't actually been done on women. So in a car crash, women are 47% more likely to be seriously injured. The reason for this is because they only started testing crash dummies on kind of female crash dummies in the last 2 years. So now they're actually doing research and understanding, you know, if you're in a car crash, what the impact is on kind of the women's physiology there. So there's a lot of books out there that basically say, you know, we need to start fixing the system. We're not there to fix kind of the women. Oh no, you missed one. Oh. There you go.
So that's the nitty-gritty stuff, but in a more positive way, how can you help? This is an excellent quote from Chuck Akers, who's actually the USPA president. Gentlemen, if you want to see more ladies in our family, stop running them off. Be respectful. That's all the ladies want. It's not difficult. Just be nice and speak up when others act inappropriately. And I think that's one of the biggest messages that we want to get across today, is to challenge it. If you see something that, you know, to stop normalizing that. If you hear something, see something, then just call someone out, challenge it. There's amazing things being done currently at drop zones about safeguarding as well, which is great. Skydive Langer, hats off to them, because they've got an amazing safeguarding scheme happening at the moment. Emily, I'm looking at you as well. And that's amazing to see. And I would make a point here that in 12 years of jumping, I actually was out of the UK for sort of 6 years. In that time, it has changed amazingly, and I am really happy to say that. I just think it's still not quite there yet.
Yeah, so awareness that it is still there. Be conscious of your language. Women, I know this has been normalised in a lot of cases, but what Laura Bates actually suggests is write your story down. Own your story. There's going to be women, you know, in this room that things have happened to that you might not have shared. No one can deny, kind of dismiss or belittle this story. This is yours to own. But what you can do is share part of that story so that we can kind of raise awareness that these things are still going on. There's a good extract in kind of Laura Bates's book where it talks about a 49-year-old woman, and she says, I'm sorry. The reason she's sorry is because she says, I didn't share my story, and therefore nothing changed for the generation below us. So as women, we also have a responsibility to share these experiences so that the younger generation, especially in the skydiving world, come in and don't have to experience what we may have experienced as skydivers.
And to add to that, we're standing up here today giving you this talk, and there have been moments where we definitely doubted it, as don't want to come across as controversial, don't want to... but at the end of the day, we feel like we're almost doing this for the AFS students or the people that may have been put off, to like encourage them and to at least sort of share our experience with you, as difficult as that sometimes can be to put out there, which goes just with treating people with respect, right? That's at the end of the day, that's all I think we all want deep down, and a lot of it might be subconscious, but that's the general message, is just to, treat people with respect. So, going into skydiving then, with women's records. So currently, it's 14% of skydivers identify as female, as per the USPA. I think that's 17% in the BPA, and up to 20% in countries like Sweden, which traditionally has more equality in their society. The current mixed head-down record is 164, with failed attempts of a 200-way in 2022. Good point there is that 40 women actually attended this record, which is 20%, which is more than the USPA statistics, so that's great to see. and that the current women's head down record is an 80 weight, almost a 97 weight. There was a moment of a grip just as someone is, it's like it's a fraction of a second. So we'll say an unofficial 97 weight, which, putting in perspective, is a lot compared to the 164 way. If you look at those statistics, that's 50%. So that to me just shows that it's nothing really to do with gender, right? That we can all do the same job. And that's what Project 19 was all about. It was an amazing event that allowed women to sort of push themselves towards this goal. There were training camps globally all around the world run by regional captains. It was a huge global event. And the other point of it was to help raise awareness in the US and around the world on women's rights. And like I said before, this was at exactly the same time that Roe versus Wade was happening. So it felt very poignant at the time. And that was the general mission.
So the event itself, it took place at Skydive, Arizona. We had participants from 22 countries, with an average of 10 years in the sport, with 150,000 jumps between us. So it was kind of women for all backgrounds, as you can see up there. They're kind of mothers up there as well. I always remember in the women's head-up record that there was one woman who was just breastfeeding between the lows. It's a very kind of inclusive environment, and it's fantastic to see, women still kind of doing these records and thinking, there's not the motherhood dilemma, I can't no longer skydive because I've now had a child. So it's really good to see. It's a very inclusive environment.
So the actual event itself wasn't without drama, of course. They'd done amazing preparation for it in the Abu Dhabi tunnel. Who's been to climb the big tunnel? Only you two. Anyway, it's amazing. You've probably all seen it. And we were actually putting 30, 40 ways in this tunnel to practice levels, practice and build the core of the formation really strong. And the idea of that was that if the center builds really quickly, then the outside has plenty of time and opportunity, which are usually the less experienced people, to dock on. We had some weather, of course. We were winded out a little bit. And by Friday, they just wanted to get the record as well. So the previous was 65, I think. And so the first jump, they built a 72 way on the first jump. The second jump, an 80 way on the second jump. And that was the official record. And from then on, they didn't give up. They were determined to try and get this 100 way. So the whole time we were just still going for it. And on Saturday, like I said, we had the unofficial breaking of the record of a 97 way. I think it was 1/10 of a second in it. Very frustrating. But yeah, I think there's a general consensus of this. 97 was pretty much there. I think using the old judging techniques, it would have been valid. Yeah. So we'll just say unofficial 97 way.
So after Project 19, Hannah and I got inspired and kind of brought those learnings back into the UK. So last year, what we did is we broke the women's head down record, so actually twice. So the first jump we did, 10-way sequential, 2-point skydive, and the fourth jump, we built a 12-way new women's head down record. So big celebration to everyone. So for some participants, this was the first time they actually docked onto kind of a formation.
Ellie Marshall.
And actually a big thanks to Skydive Langer and Laura Hampton, because actually we got a lot of media coverage from this. So
and Andy Ford
for the photos and videos. So BBC News, The Times, and I would say it was a really good event, which pushed, again, women in the sport.
I don't know if we can play this video. Oh, yeah.
There we go.
So this was the very first jump we all did together, which to me, I was just mad impressed. Some people like Mel in the base, and I think Liz as well, that Mel got her FF2 a couple of weeks before this. None of us had ever jumped together, and we managed to do a 2-point 10-way in the first jump. So. And yeah, this is video by Andrew Ford. Boom. Done. Woo. Yeah.
So you didn't think we'd finish without giving you a true American pep talk. So here is a video from Project 19.
60 seconds, ladies. All you got. You're ready.
Project 19 is more than just a vertical world record. The 19th Amendment granted women the right to vote in the USA.
And the original idea of Project 19 was to celebrate the centennial of that event 100 years later by doing a 100-way vertical world record with just women.
It is a mission to inspire women and girls to lead bold, brave lives of their own design. Unbelievable group of people. There's some professional skydivers, some weekend skydivers, there's someone who's a rocket scientist, a doctor, but they're all people that have put a huge amount of focus into skydiving in their lives to become at a super high level.
We got all of the female leaders in their skydiving community together, and we asked them to help us.
Sort of empowered them and said, like, hey, you go out and start training people.
This happened in the suffrage movement. Women from around the world had to come together.
And that's how we started building this big team.
Now we know we're ready. We decided to go into Friday morning with a group of 72 women, which is a very symbolic number. Oh, we nailed it. We nailed it on the first jump.
Yes, we just built the first record of the day.
So we went up to do an 80-way. And we nailed it again. So we got 2 skydiving world records in a row.
More friends.
The goal is the 100-way. That's the number we want. All of the 100-way attempts on the last day have been just amazing.
We still can do it!
Yeah! On each jump, you got the feeling like, oh my God, maybe we made it, you know? It was challenging to ask each person to continue to perform perfect on every single jump.
We're running out of daylight. Right now, if we get up there, we have enough for 2 more jumps.
So we decided to go up and do a 97-way. Big wheelie, ladies.
Minus 3, 2, 1, green light. Green light, exit, exit, exit.
Opened my parachute, I felt like we made it. I could see the cameraman, they were cheering, so I just thought, wow, we did it.
Looked pretty good from my angle. Everyone's cheering, so I think it looked pretty good from all angles.
We got down and we realized it was just off by this small moment. We built 96 out of 97, and it was so close. And at the same time, during the descent, one of the really most important key flyers blew an eardrum and she was bleeding out of her ear. You gotta try, right? You gotta keep trying until the end. So regardless of what we were facing, we kept going for it. When we went up for that last attempt, we were asking people to now shift into totally different sections. It was a very, very challenging situation.
That wasn't a very good jump.
Then it was over at that point. That was our last attempt. And you would think that the energy would be down and the vibe would be down, but it wasn't. Everybody landed and the energy was up and the appreciation was up and there was a sense of accomplishment and a huge sense of satisfaction in all the hard work we've done and the teamwork. What everyone really felt is hungry for the future. We still want that 100 way. We're still looking towards the future. Just like the women's suffrage movement, they've come such a long way, but there's still more to go for women's rights, and we have to keep pushing in that direction. We officially broke 2 skydiving world records. We unofficially broke that record. We didn't just show the world that we could do it. We showed the world how to do it.
So yeah, bringing back to these 2 questions, again, do we think women's records events are needed? We obviously think yes. Hopefully you can also understand and feel the same. And do you believe that we have removed all sexism at the drop zone?
So this is our opinion. Are women's records and events still needed? A safer environment for women. So the comments previously shown were from kind of British skydiving senior instructors, CIs, tandem instructors. So how do we raise awareness? So going back to the point, women need to share their story. Sometimes we feel like we can't directly challenge, so everybody needs the responsibility to go out and kind of challenge this behaviour or any comments that they may hear. Not called out specifically for being a woman. You land your canopy well like a woman, you fly well as a woman. You know, it's a great environment, women's records and events, for just not being called out in that respect. And also raise awareness for wider societal issues, especially at Project 19. There were a lot of conversations about Roe versus Wade and women's rights generally overall.
So another positive is just encouraging more women to go for records and to compete as well and feel that sense of sort of community and belonging, which might be missing for some people at their normal drop zone. One amazing thing about skydiving is that we really are all equal. We all have the same, everyone from gender, socio-economic background, race, all of it, we're all equal. So that's just essentially what we want at the end of the day. And until that drop zone environment truly does feel equal, we will still continue to strive to change that. So yeah, final quote
from Project 19, very American. Go live your bold, brave life of your own design. So Project 19, Women's Vertical World Record and Women's Skydiving Network. Any questions or comments? Fanny?
Thank you very much. I have a question/request.
Yes.
But I kind of want to share a little bit about my own experience so you understand why I'm asking this. I consider myself a daily free flyer. And as you rightly pointed out at the beginning of your presentation, there are quite a lot of stickers when you start getting into this. But I think what a lot of people forget is that there is an entire world between the points where you get your FF1 or your TR1, and then what happens next, right, to FF2 and then TR3. And even when you think about the sticker system, which I think is really great because it makes us all safer in the discipline, there's a whole wide world from getting your sticker and being able to fly safely to being able to jump and perform, even in smaller groups with this discipline. And what I've seen, which is quite interesting as well, because when I didn't check it this year, but the year before that, the first 2 years before that, around sort of B2C license is where we see the biggest drop in membership in British skydiving, which I also think is around that point where people typically start to get into free flight, right? As a baby free flyer, what I find really, really hard is that I can only let you do head-up jumps, which interestingly, when you speak to more experienced free flyers,
it's the hardest.
It's harder.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does that work? No, doesn't work. Thank you. Does this?
Yes. Yeah.
Is also probably one of the hardest free fly jumps that we can do. I hear constantly flying head up is so much harder. So we really have very little opportunities to develop our skills before we actually get to the point where we can fly head down and jump these really cool jumps. But we also see, I think from my point of view, added complexity when we're women. I have lots of male friends at the drop zone who just so easily find buddies more experienced than them that will just organize these jumps for them, right? The reason why I'm saying all of this is just because I've never had a female coach. All my stickers, and I'm really grateful for my coaches, but they've all been granted to me by men. And when I learned to fly head up, it took me a really long time because I was taught how to fly from the perspective of someone who has a body that looks very, very, very different than mine. And I've definitely I've seen a few other female skydivers at the drop zone experiencing the same issues. I would really, really love to see more events to help us baby free flyers.
Yeah.
I'm very interested here. Just progress onto those more intermediate level jumps, because I think if we don't bridge that gap, we are not going to see more women, and generally speaking, more free flyers as well, because that learning curve is so steep. Yeah. I think we see quite a lot of that in FS, but we still have such a long way to go. And I'm not saying it's not happening, by the way. I just want to give a shout to Omni, who organized events at Langer where we had beginner-friendly comps, etc. So it's a request for you too, but also for all the amazing free flyers that we have in the room, because I've seen a few of them.
I would also say as well that actually this is why we wanted to share kind of competitions, camps, and then kind of big way. I would say if you can find just one other person that you jump regularly with, and whether you do kind of the competition compulsories, that will really accelerate kind of your skydiving. And I would say we did a team, Free Fly B, Team Osiris, and actually that really, really helped us develop those skills further. And then you've got a teammate, so it doesn't matter kind of what gender they are, but at least you're training together and you're working together on those skills, but it's that consistency of jumping together, and then you're kind of developing those skills kind of, I would say, in a kind of more accelerated manner as well.
Yeah, and having a goal to work towards is always good, because I know that in that time frame you feel a bit lost. I feel like maybe I was lucky. Well, we were lucky because we had each other to jump with, but maybe it's not always that easy. Attending events is always good. Like, I know there's a big gap in the UK scene, and that's something that I really noticed from being abroad for so long and then coming back. And like Langer, I think, does an amazing job at doing events and stuff, but it is a challenge, because this is the classic, right? Once you get to a point, okay, now I can fly head down, I'm not going on a head up jump with Fanny anymore, like, and it's like, you don't want to pay your slot anymore to do it. And then a coach is probably not going to pay their slot either, because they're trying to make their money from it. And, but I think Langer ran a free event, beginner head up, I think, this year. So, I mean, there are things happening and changes, but it's a tough gap to bridge. Tunnel as well. Hate to say it because I'm a skydiver, but that's the only reason why I think I could learn to backtrack, why I learned to fly head down. If I had just been left in the sky, I probably would have quit. and because it's really hard. So that, I think, supplements your skills so well that you feel like you can do it. One last point on your thing as well is that is fascinating and true is the same for the female like body shape, or not just female. Anyone's got different body shapes. I've been taught by people who are 6'3", really skinny, and what works for them doesn't necessarily work for me. And I struggled so much with, say, belly tracking, I think, because of it. Everyone was desperate to try to get me to flex my feet. It just felt really awkward on my hips, and at some point I was just let it go, or I had advice from someone similar bodies to me, and it completely changed it. So that is a very good point, that your coach, well, a good coach should be able to coach you whatever and give you a bunch of things to try. But it's definitely something that I think is becoming more relevant now, is that body shapes and sizes do actually matter. Any more?
Yeah. Fiona?
I think.
If you don't mind. Yeah, of course.
Just gave me one of these. He just gave me one of them.
Oh, sorry, I'll try and be quick. It's not free fly related, because I'm not a free flyer, but it's women record related. I've been on lots of British women's records and women's world records, and they are the most supportive events I've ever been on. And any women thinking about it, I would thoroughly recommend it. So I've just given myself goosebumps. And it opens doors. And I actually said this to Hannah at the Christmas do at Langer, that the record that she did this year with the girls will open doors for those girls, because the first Brit Chicks that I did changed people's attitudes about me. I was no different than I was 2 weeks earlier, but literally I went back to a different drop zone that wasn't Langer, with the little patch on my jumpsuit that I said I'd been on the British Women's 50 way. Suddenly people wanted to jump with me that didn't want to jump with me 2 weeks earlier. And they were just like, oh, you were on that. Oh, that's so cool. And at that point in my career, my skydiving career, I wouldn't have got on a 50 way that was mixed. But I got on a women's 50 way and I did my job, and it opened doors. So that's why I'm fully supporting any sort of women's events, women's records. It doesn't matter the discipline.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Drop the mic.
Thanks, everyone.